All right. Hi. Welcome to Coding with Callie. I think it was like Coding Chats with Callie is what we named this, but thanks for coming.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on. Always wanted to do, I don't know if you would call this a podcast, but I've always wanted to do something like this. So
Oh, perfect.
now I get
I
to cross
say
this
it's
off
a
my bucket
podcast,
list.
but I don't have the voice for podcast. So I figured we needed to add our faces too. So,
No,
anywho,
no.
why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey into tech and where you're at now?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess my journey into tech and through tech is kind of a long, winding one. But yeah, just to start, my name is Jimmy. I'm a software engineer. Worked as a software engineer for about in a professional setting for about 2 years. Um, so I found my way into that through boot camp, through Hack Reactor, during the COVID pandemic. And before that, I was working in advertising, which was um, sort of how I got my, I guess, introduction into coding. I worked specifically in the ad tech industry, which deals a lot with code, uh, and so that was sort of what piqued my interest in signing up for a boot camp for Hack Reactor.
Okay, so what um made you decide from like dabbling in code at work to like this is what I want to do full time?
Yeah, so there's like a couple different, I guess, experiences through advertising that really pushed me towards software engineering. Um, I guess so. The capacity that I was working in was called ad operations, and I guess as it relates to digital advertising and marketing, what that is essentially working with script tags. The ads that you see on websites, uh, those are powered by script tags in JavaScript and HTML. And so my job was to essentially send those out into the internet and troubleshoot them whenever there were issues. But none of the companies I ever worked at taught me how to code or taught anyone how to code, for example. And so
Interesting.
I thought
Okay.
that was, yeah, I thought that was, maybe I'm putting it in an unfair light, but there's actually a whole industry built on digital marketing and advertising, troubleshooting script tags. And I never once was taught how to code at any of those companies. You're taught like different scenarios and what to look for. But I thought that was kind of, um, that always left me hungry to learn more about JavaScript and HTML, I guess is the best way to put it. And so working in that industry, so that's the so in ad tech is that industry is comprised of a lot of tech companies which work just like any other kind of tech company that exists in other verticals. You have a product, some guy with a great idea is able to build a product, and then he spins up a company. And so um, I guess the kind of scenario that I ran into a lot was, there's all these great products out there uh, trying to compete with the likes of Google, and you have clients that are asking for different capabilities and features. And I guess, me not being an engineer, I have, so the clients that I'm working with, they're, asking what's on the product roadmap, when are we going to be able to accomplish X, Y, and Z. And I don't have an answer for them. I'm not able to um, essentially provide this need that exists in the market. And so that sort of mindset of being able to create a solution, like if I can build something for this client that I'm working with, then I would have done it on the spot, which is easier said than done. But that kind of, I guess, reality was what pushed me to, yeah, really want to learn how to develop.
I love that. I actually have a similar story because I was e-learning developer. So I used a platform to build the e-learning, but I constantly had clients being like, well, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this? And I was like, well, the software doesn't do that. So that's how I learned how to code because I was like, oh, well, I need to figure out how to do this for you because I want you to have the e-learning that you want. So cool. Okay, so you decide you're going to start learning how to code. Do you immediately go to Hack Reactor in a boot camp or do you kind of start on your own? What does the learning process look like for you?
Hmm. Um, I did try to um, sort of go through some tutorials on my own, but very lightly, just to sort of kind of prove to myself that once I get started, coding would be something I would be interested in. So, yeah, there were some courses on Udemy that I dabbled in, and then of course Code Academy, the website, and so just kind of I kind of got my feet wet with that, and then um, once I yeah was able to um, or once I knew for sure that I enjoyed doing it, then I signed up for a boot camp uh,
Right.
because
Yeah,
because of like the kind of like structured scenario that it provides. That was something that I knew that I needed for myself in order to learn. So yeah.
I love that. So you went to Hack Reactor in 2020. That was
Yes.
very crazy time. What was
Mhm,
it like to be going through? Was it during COVID then that you were going through
mhm,
Hack Reactor? Okay, what was it like in terms of job market too? Because I hear job market was better at that time. Can you confirm or no?
mhm. Yeah, so that time was really crazy. It was during the height of COVID, like shortly after the world shut down, at least here in the US. That was another like strong driving factor that led me to um, sign up for it because the boot camp at that time was fully remote, which was new for them, but I think made a lot of sense to me, and I was really happy that it was able to take place in that setting. Um, but yeah, in terms of the job market, it actually was a lot, I suppose, better than today, believe it or not. So even back then, I had like a lot of concerns about how software engineering is oversaturated because of boot camps, because there's so many more people seeking out these jobs.
Right.
Um, and that might have been the case to some extent. But yeah, I guess the job market back then, it was right now we know that there was so much hiring going on. In 2021 and 2022, that was when I was like primarily looking for my first role. Um, and so it felt much easier back then, to be honest. I was getting interviews off of cold applications, a lot through referrals too. But yeah, I could expect that someone would look at my resume if I sent it in through LinkedIn or a similar website. But yeah.
That probably only almost makes the job market now harder because you've gone through it in a different one.
Hmm. Yeah. So I mean, I guess just like a personal like frustration of mine is they always the kind of mantra that was out there was all you need to do is get your foot in the door after boot camp, and then it's easy going from there, and that hasn't been the case. But yeah, I mean, as a software engineer, the whole idea is to continue growing and evolving and overcoming these challenges, and so this is really just another one of those challenges, I suppose, that I'm like navigating and trying to um, take steps to, yeah, grow in despite the circumstances.
So originally, I asked you to be the guest because we were talking a lot about mentoring on the Coding with Callie Slack
Hmm.
channel. And so I'd love to hear more about your experience in your first dev job and like what was it like to come into a company right out of a boot camp with no coding professional experience? And in the 2 years that you were there, what did the mentorship look like there? How did you learn?
Hmm. Yeah. So there's not really a short answer to that question.
That's all right.
And yeah, I appreciate you. You saw me kind of rambling in your Slack channel about all of this, and I appreciate you reading um, through all of that. Um, but yeah, in terms of mentorship, it's something that I thought a lot about. Um, and it's definitely easier said than done. So I guess like my experience, I don't want to like come off as disparaging towards my former employer or anything like that, but I understand that mentorship is it exists in a lot of different forms and a lot of different contexts, um, and everyone's gonna receive teaching differently, and so yeah, my opinions and thoughts are colored by my experiences and mine alone. But yeah, to set the scene of where I was working, it was a small company. Their engineering team was really small, and so um, it was an agency, so the work was client based. Where we're working with tickets sent in by the client, and so everyone is really busy all the time. And the company went through some changes too, and so it wasn't um, to me. It felt like the priority was to get the work done, which I totally understand. But that was really difficult for me as a junior engineer coming in. So I was telling the story about how I was
Yeah.
tasked to deploy an EKS cluster um, by my manager at the time, and he was like, "Hey, um, deploy this EKS cluster. You can use this tool called Terraform. That'll make it a lot easier." So
Just
I
a
was like,
simple
"Oh,
tool.
okay, great." Um, yeah. So I mean, I think Terraform is this terrific, wonderful thing that will automate everything for you. Um, but it certainly isn't easy to kind of even grasp your mind around,
I'm
let
also
alone implement.
confused. Like, did he give you like the architecture of like what you're deploying into, like, and
Mhm.
like what everything was set up? Cause like I feel like it's like, and like how he wanted the configuration for the cluster.
Yeah, so he did give
Okay.
me all of that. He walked me through the architecture, the existing, or this was an existing production application that was
Okay.
deployed using a different set of infrastructure tools. So he did
Oh,
walk me
okay.
through all of that. Um, there were things um, like database replicas and load balancers and things like that. Things that I hadn't worked with before. And so
Well, yeah, for sure.
all of it is new to me. And so mm, I guess to backtrack a little bit, the reason that I started thinking about mentorship a lot was because I'd heard so much about these infamous software engineering performance reviews.
Ooh,
You
okay.
know, either I guess it exists at FANG companies, and for some reason I thought it existed everywhere. But I heard that um, performance reviews are extremely rigorous. If you're not given really high marks, then you're on the cutting block, which probably isn't the case at every
This is
company,
very
but
interesting. The first I've heard of it because my performance review at my first company was 5 minutes long and it was like, good job, Callie. Go back to work. So I wouldn't worry
yeah.
too much in your next role because it's probably super different at different places. But yes, continue your performance review. You were nervous.
hmm Yeah. Um, there wasn't really a lot in the way of performance reviews at my company either. Which again, I understand it was a lean organization. They're trying to, um, really get things done. Um, but yeah, that's sort of like kind of always had my approach to software engineering being okay. I know a certain set of skills coming out of boot camp, but that's the tip of the iceberg, right? In terms of front end development, back end development, and there's so much more, so many more realms of engineering, like DevOps. Like I need to ensure that I'm continuously growing um, in all these areas. Um, but
Which is stressful.
what hmm Yeah, because even within, like, say, front end development, there's so many different topics to learn. Um, and so, yeah, I guess I really prefer structure and kind of knowing what to expect. And so, I guess not having that environment made it difficult for me to even know like what were the right questions to ask, like what is the next thing that I should be learning. Is EKS something that I should know already? Is this like intuitive, and am I just kind of like missing the boat here mentally? And so yeah, now I know that uh, DevOps itself is sort of complicated, and there are a lot of different kind of steps and more basic concepts that you can learn on the way to deploying an EKS cluster. Um,
100%. Yeah.
but I didn't really know that at the time. Um, and I felt like I was just not cut out for this work or the industry, to be honest.
No.
But
Honestly, I do feel like it seems like I feel like imposter syndrome's real, right? So like
mhm,
everybody feels that all the time. Like I feel all the time at work. I'm like, am I doing a good job? And I think part of like being a good manager is being able to like notice when your employees are feeling that way and be able to provide support or like a kudos, if they're doing good, or support if they need some support, So I don't know. I feel like I chalk it up to your manager a little bit more than you, and I'm sorry that you felt that way.
um, yeah, again, I think on my end, my manager had a lot on his plate. I don't like want to really
Yeah.
throw him under the bus. And I think on my end, I, probably could have asked better questions too. And that was something that I had to learn. Something that I did learn along the way, kind of in this trial by fire scenario, was, um, yeah, knowing how to ask questions, knowing how to do like the requisite research and legwork on my own, test things locally before, um, so that I can ask an informed question to other senior team members and things like that. But yeah, I guess so. I'm not sure if I answered your question at all, but I guess going back to, yeah, this idea of mentorship, I think when you're sort of, um, I guess, stepping into a new experience in terms of learning, um, I think it's crucial in order, so crucial for someone to, I guess, be shown or be aware of like the first steps to take, and kind of where to begin and then where to go after that. That sounds kind of vague, but that was like really my motivation for signing up for a boot camp because right, even back then, um, kind of the wisdom out there was that there are so many free resources online available to you, right? You shouldn't need to pay for coding education because honestly, back then, even now, there are um, really viable ways to be a self-taught engineer. But
Yeah, for sure.
with like a structured environment, with a curriculum, a group of peers, and someone to guide you, um, I think that for someone's growth, even someone extremely talented, someone's growth is going to be accelerated tenfold. Um, so that's what I think is so great about coding with Callie and the deploy in public
Oh, thanks.
workshop. Everyone sign up for it. It's not too late. We're only in week one, but
Also, I don't even like a roadmap is so important, and the roadmap is supposed to be drawn up by leadership and by the higher ups, right? So like even if you look at coding with Callie, I don't have all 10 weeks of the deploy in public challenge worked out yet because I'm just like going through like, okay, my goal is to get us using an EKS cluster and have it all automated with a full stack application. But how do I get there step by step? You know what I mean? And like, hopefully we get there, sort of a
yeah.
thing. But like, if I feel like I'm learning it myself and then like kind of having you guys trail along with me 1 week behind. But I think definitely in the work environment, you want to find a place where like there is a defined roadmap and the people who are like giving you tasks, if you're a junior, like those people are the senior people. And like it's hard though, because how can you prioritize looking for a job with mentorship in a market where like you kind of have to take
hmm
what you can get, you know? So I
hmm
feel like we almost need to flip it.
Yeah.
And it's like, how can you force, how can you like structure the environment yourself if you end up in an unstructured environment?
hmm
You know what I mean? And so, like, what are some ways do you
Yeah.
think that you could, if you could do it all over again, or in your next job, if you end up again in an unstructured environment where there's not a good roadmap ahead of you, what could you do to like kind of get that roadmap from people?
Yeah, that's a good question. In terms of like step by step, um, like a step by step procedure, I'm not really sure what I could do, but I think one thing um that would be really great is like I guess pair programming or
That's a great one. Yeah.
working with like senior engineers on a task. I think um, yeah, and that might sound like an obvious answer, but um, I
Well,
think
let's bring it back to the EKS cluster. Did you pair program with any senior engineers on it?
I had asked some people for help, but um, nobody. There weren't a lot of people that actually had deep experience with deploying EKS clusters. I think maybe it was like a couple very senior people, who I didn't
Okay.
have the opportunity to talk to. So, um,
This is so
yeah.
interesting to me. So no one at the company uses
Mhm,
EKS. Then they put the
mhm,
junior and has his first assignment to like architect a new way of
mhm,
deploying things. Okay, that is very interesting. So,
mhm,
okay, then I guess my next question would be like, sometimes I try to like make a different goal for what I'm doing. So like if I get a ticket, the question would be like, okay, when does this need to be done? And like, does this need to be production ready? Or like, am I just exploring? So like you want me to make an
mhm,
EKS cluster with Terraform. That feels like down the road. Can I make an EKS cluster in the console first? And then let's review it and see how things go. And then can I go automate things later? Do you know what I mean? Like,
mhm.
would there have been a
Right.
way, or like in the future, can you see a way to like kind of break something down? Or is it a thing of where like you don't know what you don't know and you didn't even know that you could create the cluster in the console instead?
Mhm. Um, I think eventually I got around to, um, yeah, doing things manually first in the AWS console, um, and trying to navigate that. But even that was really difficult, because like an EKS cluster, right? It has so many different like settings and configuration options,
100%.
which
Yes.
all need to be specified in the Terraform document. So uh, I was like going down so many different rabbit holes in terms of the console. When you click create anything, create a user, it
Hmm.
asks you about all these different options. I was just like getting overwhelmed. I think personally, I sort of lost sight of the forest for the trees. But um, yeah, I think right. This goes back to your question of how can I create like a sort of mentorship environment is like I guess when there's like an exceedingly difficult task, I think walking through it step by step with like a senior engineer or someone who's done it before is that experience is like invaluable and irreplaceable. Like in my mind, I guess, right, anyone that has done something difficult, um, especially in terms of um, yeah, something like EKS, where there's like a lot of different steps and a lot of complicated concepts. Um, I guess having someone to like lead and guide, even in like a loose capacity, will make the world of difference.
Okay. No, I totally think so. So here's a tip. And I
Mhm.
don't know if it's a good one. So if you're watching this, comment and let us know. But my way to force someone to mentor me is this. I throw time on their calendar. I stalk their calendar. I
Mhm.
wait until I see like 15 to 30 minutes open and I throw up a thing. And then that's just my pair programming time. If they prepare, if they don't prepare, that's fine. But like that's actually how I learned how to deploy things. I had like a genius mentor at work, but he was so busy. So I just would be like, I would just stalk his calendar and I'd put the 30 minutes up. And then if he showed up, he showed up. If he didn't, he was too busy and I just kept working. But that way just be
Gotcha.
prepared with your questions. And so be ready. So when they pop in that Zoom room, then you can just like rapid fire. Okay, wait, what setting should this be? What setting should this be? Okay, now how would I automate it? I don't think you should have to do that, but it is what it is.
Hmm.
Um, Topic switch a little bit because I stalked you on LinkedIn and I'm like,
Okay.
I feel like there's an opportunity here for you. Like you used to work in digital marketing and
Hmm.
now you're a software engineer looking for a job. How can you market yourself? How can you like apply
Hmm.
the marketing that you would do for other companies? No, I'm serious. I watched this video of this one girl. She got laid off and then I mean, it wasn't in engineering, it was in marketing. And so then she made this whole video of her like introducing herself, like selling herself as if like she was working for a company making a video selling, and it was like it went viral and it was so cool. So I don't know, I guess, what are your thoughts on like how could you use those tools to find yourself a new job?
Hmm. Yeah, um that's a good question. I think that really, I guess my thoughts on that is just like personal branding and using LinkedIn as a platform to um I guess like um yeah, give employers, give recruiters like a little, I guess, look into myself, the work that I'm doing, and just like mm, yeah, even just like my thoughts and, I don't know, philosophy, if you want to call it that, on software engineering and in the industry. So yeah, I guess like to bring in marketing concepts like knowing your audience and sort of targeting your material towards um, the specific groups that you want to attract. That's definitely something that I've been thinking a lot about and sort of working on, in terms
Oh,
of
cool.
being more out there on LinkedIn, and it's kind of yeah, tailoring my posts to uh, I guess people who I want to come across my LinkedIn profile and be like, hey, this looks like a capable engineer that we could bring into our organization. So um, yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. I also feel like I need to have you on again because I want to pick your brain about SEO, but we can do that at another point. Is there anything that you want to plug or share before we head out?
um, nothing personally. I mean, I have my LinkedIn, I have my GitHub, and that's about where all of my anything you want to know about me, anything relevant, is there. Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess I do want to plug Coding with Callie.
Oh
This
my
is not like
goodness.
a paid ad, but I think this is such a tremendous developer community of peers, and I think the more people that we have in there working together, the more valuable it becomes for us who are already participating, but each new member will add value, and so yeah, I'm trying to like create conversation in the Slack and chatter on LinkedIn and things like that. But I really think the more that it grows, the more, I guess, impactful it'll become. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it grow too. And I really appreciate your comments on mentorship in the Slack because I've been thinking about it ever since. And like, how can coding with Callie help junior developers get that mentorship that they might be missing if they're not hired yet, or they might be missing in their first job. So thank you for coming on. And yeah, I'll see
Yeah,
you
for
later.
sure. Thanks for having me, Callie.
All right. Bye, Jimmy.